And welcome to Street Banter, where one of us knows what the word banter means, the other one's just along for the ride. We are joined by Noah. What a big dog.
How's it going, man? Excited to be back. Been a little too long, but more the more the merrier here on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good to have you here. Yeah, it's been what, 2-3 months? I think we talked a little bit towards the end of the season before
Yeah,
school started.
yeah,
It's been a while. The grind has been kicking all of our butts for sure, but we're here.
yeah, man. I mean, it's good to get a Thanksgiving break, spend time with the family, and talk a little Rockies baseball.
Yeah, let's just brighten that holiday break a little bit, right? With
Oh
some
yeah.
Rockies talk. Uh, so baseball players are superstitious and have all these weird routines and traditions. But do you and your family have any Thanksgiving traditions that you guys do?
I was just talking to one of my buddies about this yesterday. I don't think any that stick out, but we like to go for that midday walk before getting food, and then of course everyone kind of crashes down after dinner. But I've got so many little siblings and cousins, so they always are high energy, and you can't really get much rest with them running around.
No, it's a busy house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty much what ours is. We don't have any traditions for Thanksgiving. It's just kind of hopefully you can show up and we're gonna watch the Lions football.
oh yeah.
Usually it's been winning, so it's been a good thing lately. So, but
Uh,
no real traditions for Thanksgiving.
they're rolling.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So the off season's here. It's kind of slow, but the Rockies made a move. By now, you've already heard that Cal Quantrill is a Colorado Rocky. He's comes from the Guardians. Pretty good pickup. I kind of like it. The Rockies traded Cody Huff for him, and designated for assignment Tommy Doyle, who wasn't tendered, so he is officially a free agent out there. Rockies, I could possibly see him bringing him back like on a minor league deal, but we'll see where he goes. But Cal Quantrill, how do you feel about this move just in general? Just when you hear the name Cal Quantrill at joining the Rockies, like what kind of comes to mind with that?
I'm excited because I remember his time in San Diego. He was a little bothersome whenever we faced him, and he's a name that always seems to float around the league. Everyone knows who he is, even though it's weird because I think he's a pretty well-known name, but he's not considered elite. But you look at the numbers from in the past, and as Tyler did a great write-up for us, between 20 and 22, he had a 3.08 ERA, and that was the 15th best in Major League Baseball among starting pitchers who totaled 300 or more innings. And I mean, when you need pitching like the Rockies do, anyone helps. And to get a guy like this for an affordable price, I was pretty happy when I saw the notification that he was coming to the Rockies.
Yeah, the numbers, those 2020 to 2022 numbers are insane. Like
Yeah.
everybody's gonna be happy about that. He was sent to the Guardians. I don't know what trade it was. He was a Padre. It was the Clevenger deal. I think that sent
Yep.
Quantrill from the Padres to the Guardians, I think.
Yep. Mike Clevenger deal. Yep.
So he's been a name. He's been a hot guy to have around. And I think there's the Guardians, my bad, cutting bait with him has everything to do with money, which is super surprising. I was reading an article, I put it on our rundown, that the revenue sharing of teams losing out on the regional cable networks is kicking their butt. They're going to be losing millions and millions of dollars, so their payroll is going to be cut quite a bit. And you kind of see that with like the Padres, for example. They're the biggest one because they're the one that MLB decide, hey, we'll air all of your games on MLB TV in the local area. We'll cover your cable loss. But now all these regional networks are leaving. There's like, I think 13 teams that don't have a regional network, which they're losing. I think it's like 30 to 50 million a year on that. And so a lot of these teams aren't going to be spending as much. And I think Kyle Quantrill is one of those kind of have to cut your losses type things. He was only due $6.6 million, but coming off an injury plague season, got to find some way to save money. I believe that made the Guardians' decision to DFA him pretty easy. And that's why I think Cody Huff, who he's a backup catcher, is his ceiling. He's not going to do much more than being that backup guy. He might be able to stick around for 4 or 5 years in the majors with a bat, and he's going to be great defensively. You're going to hear about him like Cody Huff. He can manage a rotation. So the Rockies giving up Cody Huff, who didn't make it past Fresno, like he was just working his way up, for a Cal Quantrill type, kind of screams like the Guardians were looking to get anything for this because they're going to cut bait with him. I mean, he was DFA'd. That's kind of how they got rid of him. But not being able to afford that $6 million because that regional thing, I think, is a bigger picture type item. And I could be totally off the cuff and losing my mind here. But I think there's something with that there.
I would say, yeah, I think it definitely comes into the picture. I mean, I know just through some of the classes that I'm taking as I'm working in sports media that television deals are such a massive part of a franchise earnings. And the Rockies have not announced what they're doing because their contract with AT&T Sportsnet was up after the season. So that's going to be something to watch for. But yeah, the $6.6 million due to Quantrill, I think, is the reason that they let him go. But I just think even after a down 2023, it's the way that his arsenal should play at Coors Field: sinker, cutter, curveball, and a changeup. And in 2023 he worked in a splitter. I think that the Rockies have worked with Chichi Gonzalez in recent years. Chase Anderson. This is a good upgrade. This is a good upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. Like Chase Anderson, Chris Flexen, they're gone, and you got Cal Quantrill coming in, filling that spot. Like, granted, Tommy Doyle was on that starting 5 rotation, opening day rotation, so Cal kind of puts into that. So there still is a kind of a need for starting pitching, but I think like the Arsenal, there's something there. Billy Schmidt and crew have kind of got me. Like,
I know.
So it's like I almost trust them in making this kind of move with what they've been looking at. Which is weird to say, and there's going to be people mad listening to me say that out loud. But I'm almost trusting like this is a good move.
I mean, yeah, I completely agree. I think Bill Schmidt, he's been working his way up. He's been slowly gaining the respect of the franchise. I mean, the Bridich barrier is really the last thing that you hear of Jeff Bridich right now.
Yeah.
But I think the moves that he's made, the analytics department continues to expand as well. They hired a couple more people, but it's good to see the Rockies doing what they need to do to get back into relevancy, compete, coming off the worst year in franchise history. I had to talk to an uncle yesterday. He asked how the Rockies did, and he was shocked when I told him that it was their first 100 loss season. But he was like, I would have thought they would have done that a couple times. Oh, but so we had that, but it's good to not have that anymore. We took a step in the right direction, even though playing all the young guys last year seemed to be plan B because of all the injuries. I think that was a blessing in disguise. I mean, Brenton Doyle got to win a gold glove, and we got Nolan Jones consistent playing time, who should have been a Rookie of the Year finalist, but I could go on that for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. I get that a lot about the 100 loss season too. It's kind of ridiculous that the Rockies have never lost it, and things are changing. Just like Cal Quantrill's changeup, one of his kind of a hidden trick. Like, I hope he kind of throws out a little bit more coming into the season. Seriously, this article by Tyler has all the details. If you need to go see it at BlakeStreetBanter.com. It's what he can do, what he can change, and adding Cal less than any free agent that they're going to bring to the table for $6 million and a Cody Huff. Like, that's going to be cheaper than anything out on the market and probably just as high of a ceiling to it. So I really do like this move. I think we both give this a high grade. I'm probably giving it an A just because.
Oh, yeah, I would as well.
Like, you're not giving up a lot, and there's such a high ceiling. Obviously, you got to be worried about the shoulder injury coming from 2023. I think he pitched 90-ish innings last year, which is concerning when you're looking for innings eaters. But name any rotation in the league that doesn't have injury issues. That just adds a good high arm to kind of help with that. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, and I think that with the Rockies, they're going to try to get Senza back and Herman back. we were talking about it, and think Herman could come back July. Maybe All-Star break is a realistic expectation, but the sooner that he can come back, I mean, I have his jersey. He's one of my favorite players, and we can talk jerseys a little bit later because I thought I saw that on the document here. But I think that this is an absolute high upside, little low risk signing, and the Rockies are a team that can do that coming off 59 wins.
Yeah, 59 wins, Jesus.
Yeah.
It's gonna be another long season too, so whatever we can add to it to hopefully turn into more, why not? And let's see how this plays out. Obviously the Rockies are still going to add, they have to add to the starting pitching. I don't know which way they're gonna go. They have a few in-house options. None scream off the board like, hey, they are going to be for sure a stud. There's a few names that we can probably talk on a later pod, but right now they're going to add something through free agency or they're making a trade. Tyler Glasnow is officially available. Do they trade for Tyler Glasnow and his $25 million contract?
I mean, that would be, obviously he's one of the best pitchers in baseball, even if he's coming off a couple injuries. I think he's still one of the most respected pitchers in the whole sport. They're going to have a lot of suitors for him, and I don't know if the Rockies are going to be able to match the compensation that he will require. And there's an effect of, I'm going to go to Coors Field, and I don't know. Pitchers just don't want to pitch at Colorado because they don't know what it's going to do to their ERA, despite so many pitchers that pitch for the Rockies and go have success elsewhere, like Yency Almonte. They always say Coors Field taught me how to pitch. So yeah, I don't know. There's a cloud over the Rockies for free agent pitchers, but a lot of guys actually like pitching for the Rockies in the way that it makes them think through the process of pitching.
Yeah, you got to be mentally tough if you're going to do the hangover, the Coors effect piece there. It's, who was it? I don't know where I heard it, but the Rockies just aren't going to overspend for starting pitching. That's like one thing Dick has made pretty much clear, and I don't think Billy's really down that route either. They're not going to overpay for pitching. You want to come here, we're going to pay you market value, just like anybody else, maybe give or take a little bit, but they're not going to completely overspend on arms to come to Colorado because, I mean, you don't know how it's going to work out. You don't know the mental toughness that goes with it. So really that draft and development piece with pitching is a thing. Like Herman Marquez was developed by us. He wasn't drafted, but he's developed. Freeland, Cincy, you can go down the road. Gomber ended up figuring it out. Not one of our guys, but I would say he's a solid 3-4 starter anywhere in the league, and he's doing his thing with his arsenal here too. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what they add. They're not going to add these big names. Is there any names that pop out to you? Tyler and I talked about the last time, but any names that you kind of think?
I'm not sure beyond what you and Tyler talked about in the last pod, but I just, continuing your point on the Rockies drafting and developing guys, they have a recipe that in 2017, 2018, the starting five that got them there was Marquez, it was Freeland, it was John Gray, it was Antonio Senzatella, and those guys were all, even if Marquez wasn't drafted by the Rockies, they were all developed, they were all built up through the Rockies farm, and I think that they had back-to-back postseason appearances, first time in franchise history, so they have their recipe that they need to follow, and it's all about, they've been drafting pitchers super arm heavy in the draft. It's just about getting them to the stage and development and avoiding injuries. The Rockies have been slammed with injuries in the minor league pitching, but I think sooner rather than later, the Rockies will have actually a good competition for their rotation.
Yeah, and it's just, there's some arms coming up, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do. They need at least 8 or 9 guys. They need 1, 3, 2, 3, 4 man to put in the starting rotation, and then hopefully the other 5 or 6 start developing behind them. So before we get to our next segment, let's talk about our Daily Controls player spotlight here. I want to talk a little bit Daily Controls. Let's first shout our one sponsor. Thank you, Daily. automation needs. They can travel anywhere. If you need something fixed, you need something figured out, they got you. They will travel to Hartford if you are listening from there. They will go to Denver. He's down in Mexico again for Thanksgiving. I actually feel terrible for him. But he works hard. He is very smart. So if you need some support in any automation things, whatever that means, go ahead and check out dailycontrolsllc.com and reach out to Mr. Daly over there. But I want to spotlight Jimmy Heron, who Sean Bouchard, if you're a listener all the time, this is one guy that I've been high on. I think he's next on the list. He's the number 6 outfielder. So let's spotlight him a little bit, right? He was drafted 3rd by the Cubs in 2018. And then he was literally traded a year later to the Rockies for cash in 2019. So not sure what the Cubs didn't like in him. I'm not sure how that came about, but he's been in the Rocky system since 2019, played in Lancaster when they were actually an affiliate back then. So, but last year he really came on the scene, 296, 395, 498 slugging. Granted, PCL, inflation, all that. However, he is still a dog. 27 doubles, 19 homers, 83 RBIs. Strikeout rate about 20%, 103 strikeouts and 539 plate appearances. He's kind of got this, again, Sean Bouchard, professional at bat. He's going to make you think, make you grind for whatever you're trying to get from him. He's not an easy out at the plate. He is one of the few at bats I like to actually watch all the pitches go through. He'll follow them off. He'll fight through it. But Jimmy Heron, I think he just needs to get a shout out. You're going to see his name during spring training. You're going to have everybody talking about him. He play all 3 positions in the outfield. So Jimmy Heron, look out for him. I do imagine he's on the plate to get called up as long as Jurickson Profar doesn't come back, that if there is an injury in that outfield, Jimmy is next up. So I just want to give a shout out to Jimmy there. Next on our rundown is the 40-man ads. So this Rule 5 draft is coming up soon. Winter meetings are coming beginning of December. That's usually when they start doing it. The draft is right around there. I think it's like day 1 or day 2 of that. And the Rule 5 is all pitchers. Again, go back and listen to the last few pods. They are evergreen pods. So like you're not missing on anything out like too late because time passed. Mm-hmm. The Rule 5 is like, it's all pitchers. So the Rockies had to make some decisions. Obviously, they added, you know this by now, Yanquiel Fernandez, Adel Amador, Angel Chavili, and Juan Mejia. The biggest surprise here is Angel Chavili. Wasn't on a lot of radars. I don't think he pitched for Hartford just towards the end of the last season when Spokane season ended. That's when he went up to Hartford. He pitched 3 games up there, 4 innings. I'm excited about him. I don't want to spend too much time because we got a guest coming on the pod, Stephen Rice, who will just talk our ear off about each one of those guys. But I guess maybe we talk about Yanquiel and Amador real quick. Do you see either one of them coming up in 2024? What do you think their kind of future is?
I'm not sure if either one of them will come up in 2024, but I mean, they both had very strong years. Fernandez this past season played 117 games. He slashed 265, 313, 486. He totaled 25 home runs and 92 RBI. The interesting part to me is I was looking through his numbers. He played at A-ball, high A, and double A this past season. And in A-ball, there was only 4 games, 16 plate appearances, but 38% K rate, so a little high, but that's 4 games, so we won't even.
And that was the very beginning of the season. The only reason he played down there is because Spokane was heading up to Vancouver, and there was some visa issues. So just throw that out the window. Yeah.
No, I didn't even know that. So that, I mean, shouldn't even take that into account.
Nope, throw that out the window.
He spent about half of his season then at high A, and he only had an 18% strikeout rate. And then he went to double A and had about a 33% strikeout rate. So still trying to figure it out. But the upside is there. I'm not sure we'll see him in 2024. He might just head up to Albuquerque. But I don't know. Do you think Amador could end up with the Rockies this year?
Amador is a good one. We answered a fan question last week. Like, does B-Rod get traded because Amador's next? You also have Julio Carreras right behind him, who's on the 40-man. It's Amador is only up this year if B-Rod is no longer part of the team. There's too many. His bat could play. I think his glove it's still a work in progress at second base. He's been playing shortstop. He hasn't quite figured out what second base looked like. That is his future though. But I'm sure he'll figure that out sometime soon defensively. It's just he's not on the Tovar track where all right, you're our starting second baseman. You're here all year. He's the guy like, all right, we got to figure out what we're doing with B-Rod. Is he staying around? Because I think B-Rod's a free agent at the end of this 2024 season, or he's arbitrations. I don't know. His contract's something up weird in 24, 25. So they have to make a decision with B-Rod before I think Amador gets up. Even injuries, I think the Rockies are still throwing in like a Coco Montez, a Hunter Stovall, a Shunk, a Trejo. They're throwing them into second base before they are Amador. He is the future, so I think they're going to play him a little bit safer than other guys. And he's not quite, I don't know, he's major league ready, but I just think there's something part of his game, probably the power piece, that needs to come along. And then being injured all last year, I just don't think he's not knocking on the door in April. He's knocking on the door in July.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the talk about B-Rod, it brings back the trade rumors with him and Edward Cabrera that happened in the offseason last year. And I mean, Edward Cabrera, the big time pitcher for the Marlins. But I don't know, just seeing who the Rockies have next up in that middle infield with Tovar and then whoever they give the call at second base. And the Rockies needing pitching depth, Edward Cabrera being one of the top young arms in the sport. Those trade rumors now looking back are like, man. But I mean, we also had super high expectations for B-Rod, and he got hurt. So
Yeah.
you can't do anything about that.
And that's the only thing. Like, there's no knock on B-Rod's game. Like, it's just injuries, and it sucks to say it. And so trading him now is not going to get a Cabrera type return, which also stings a little bit. Huge B-Rod fan, but it is that business side that he is that probably the best asset the Rockies have right now, behind like maybe like a Jordan Beck, a Yankel Fernandez. Not that I like to trade prospects, being a prospect head myself, but he does have that biggest value to add that name. Like, do the Rays like want B-Rod and a few other names for Tyler Glasnow? Like,
yeah,
is that something that we can come back to? I mean, we did throw him a bone last year when we picked a Rule 5 guy for him, Mr. Kelly, and traded him to them for some cash. So there is some talks there. There's a connection. Does B-Rod get moved in the winter meetings before the winter meetings for a pitcher? Who knows?
That'd be one of those like league reactions where the Rockies signed Chris Bryant. If we got Glasnow and nobody, like, because I know there's going to be 20 teams calling them.
Oh yeah. And all the names that are connected to Glasnow, I read a few articles before. It's the Cubs, it's the Dodgers, it's the Yankees, it's the Sox. It's all the big dogs that are connected to Glasnow. So we'll see. And I think Glasnow is probably going to the Cubs. They just have a deep farm system, and if they can bring in Glasnow and Ohtani, like, watch out. And because they signed Craig Counsell, maybe we talk a little bit about this. Like, the Cubs are making moves to get Ohtani. Hey, Craig Counsell, highest paid manager, let's come in here. We'll get you. We'll add you on here. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that Counsell went from the Brewers to the Cubs, and there's a whole bunch of new managers and new places, but that one is easily the biggest headliner because
that's wild.
I mean, Counsell to me held the Brewers together. I don't think the Brewers have an overly talented roster to where they should have been making the postseason 4 out of the past 5 years or whatever their figure was. But I mean, since 2018, they have been, they made the NLCS that year and then lost to the Dodgers. They've been consistently up at the top of the National League because of the way their pitchers and back end bullpen plays. But a lot of that is how they're managed and their rest days. So I don't know. I think people are talking about the Cubs signing Counsell enough. They're not talking enough about the potential downfall of the Brewers that could come this year.
I think there's a huge downfall because you're looking Corbin Burns, Woodruff, Like they're hurt, they're out, they're gone.
Yeah.
Like Craig Council can only manage so many band-aids, and I don't think there's a lot on the farm that's coming up to either.
No.
So
And the lineup already wasn't really producing
no.
anything. They were winning games 2-1 the whole season. So
Yeah. So you heard it here first. The Brewers are going to win or lose 100 games next year because
Yep.
of this big move. So it's going to be interesting, the Central, but that's another pod. So the Rule 5 also, again, pitcher heavy. You'll see teams pass up. There's 30 teams that they all get a choice, right? But there's probably about 20 of them that will pick one guy. There'll be about 10 that pick two, and then there might be a random team that picks three. The MILB, though, that Rule 5 draft, it's all the same pool players. There's some different stipulation. Can't quite tell you what it is. They do not have to be, if a player selected in the Rule 5 minor league parts, they do not have to be on the AAA roster. They can be at any part of the system at any time. So that's the one difference between MILB and MLB, and it happens right away, right behind, back to back. There are a few names that the Rockies might lose. They added these guys this past season. Would not be surprised if the three names, let's start with that: Tanner Gordon, Alec Barger, and Van Scoyoc, Connor Van Scoyoc. Those are the three names that are probably could be selected by a team in the Rule 5. You could throw in Chris McMahon. I don't think he's going to be selected by anybody. Victor Juarez is also Rule 5 eligible, but he hasn't made it past high A. He's still working on some things, so I don't think a team selects him. I think the one name is Tanner Gordon that could be selected, that we just added from the Brave system. He made it all the way up to AAA last year, was pretty good in AAA. He's a 6th-round pick in 2019 by the Braves. He's 26 years old. He's one that I would actually be concerned about being picked up by another team.
Yeah, I looking at his figures, because I wasn't familiar with the name, they're impressive. So I can see why other teams would want him and why the Rockies would want him. And anytime that you can get a pitcher that he's 6'5", 215, that plays anywhere, that coming down that high of an arm slot. He actually went to the school that I go to, IU Bloomington, which
Nice.
I've just learned. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, super high upside guy, and he can throw a lot of innings. And he played with 4 different teams in 2023 because he went from the Braves to the Rockies. I think he's a versatile guy, and like you said, there will be some draw to him.
Yeah, he pitched Albuquerque and Gwinnett were the AAA spots, and Gwinnett in about the same amount of innings, same amount of games. And Gwinnett, he had a 9.20 RA9, 8.28 ERA, and in Albuquerque PCL, we got to give some credit when they do, 4.31 ERA. So that was at the end of the season. He pitched in Hartford for 4 games, 22 innings, had a 5.96 ERA in Hartford. So going to the PCL and posting that ERA. Big strikeout numbers, 34 strikeouts in 31 innings, so a little bit over 1. The walk rate, it's 10 in those 31 innings. So it's give and take with that what it is. But he could be somebody that the Rockies are calling on. Like, he's number 6, number 7 on the depth chart. I think he's like right around there with Jeff Criswell, right behind Carl Kaufman. He's next on that list. And obviously the Rockies like him because they traded for him. So Tanner Gordon, he might be one name that you're all watching in the Rule 5 draft to be picked up by somebody else. Alec Barger, fantastic Arizona Fall League, 0.98 ERA. Big strikeout numbers, 13 strikeouts in 9 innings, but don't look at his 2023 stats. They weren't very good even when he transferred over here. And then Van Scoyoc, he was high A. Then he went to Double A. He struggled at Double A. He's a big body, like you said. Big body will play wherever you kind of need him, but putting him on a MLB roster for an entire season isn't likely. Tanner Gordon is that one name I think the Rockies might have missed out on protecting. So we'll see how that plays out. Yeah, you don't need that.
Yeah, and I mean, looking through Lewis' article, which he wrote on Blake Street Banter, the important offseason dates, the Rocky selections in the past, 2022, Kevin Kelly, you mentioned him. We got him and then immediately sent him to Tampa for cash considerations. And then 2020, we got Jordan Sheffield, who pitched in 2021 and 2022. I believe he was hurt in 2023, but didn't get any run.
Yeah.
And the other guy listed here is Luis Perdomo in 2015, who we immediately traded to San Diego for cash. I just think that one's funny because he was the one involved in the Nolan Arenado rushing the mound brawl.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, with Cargo getting involved, and I remember watching that because there hasn't been a fight like that at Rockies games in forever. And I mean, all you got was Bryce Harper calling us a poverty franchise, or whatever. Yeah,
every single one of you.
Yep.
I mean, he wasn't wrong at the moment, but I still hate him for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, so the Rule 5, it's fun. It's fun to talk about, but there's not a lot that happens. The very few position players actually get selected and do their thing. But guess what? We're joined by Stephen Rice. So Stephen Rice is on the stage. Ooh, I didn't know how that would look with 3 people. What up, big dog?
Yeah. What's up? Good morning. How you guys doing?
Good morning to you.
Yeah,
Pacific
this is awesome.
Coast time. You are bright and early.
That's crazy.
On the day before Thanksgiving. The
I
grind
love
doesn't
awesome.
stop.
Never, ever. You know what? This is what we're about here in Fresno. It doesn't matter if it's 6 a.m. It doesn't matter if it's 2 in the morning. We're still rocking it out. Great ideas. Enjoying life, talking baseball. Can't go wrong.
Let's go. Awesome. So this is your guys' first time meeting Noah. This is Steven. Steven, this is Noah.
Nice to meet you, man.
So
good to meet you too.
You were in the background there, so you kind of know what we're talking about. Rule 5 draft. We think Tanner Gordon's like the one Rocky that might be selected or anything like that. But the Rockies protected Angel Chivilli and Juan Mejia. You've been on this pod saying Mejia is a dog. You've been on DNVR pod saying Chivilli is a dog. On the spot, maybe you can take off your Fresno broadcast hat and whatever you want. However you want to answer this, just let us know how you want to answer it. Who has the biggest upside?
You know what? Right now, I think Juan Mejia does. You know, there's something to be said about a guy who has one of the most devastating sliders in the Rocky system. When you have a slider that has the movement, the downward movement that actually plays well at Coors Field, you're going to enjoy that a little bit more. You know, and I think Mejia, especially the past couple of years, his development has looked really, really good. And I think that's something that not a lot of people get a chance to see is Chivilli is still young. I mean, they're both very young, but Mejia, he spent a year and a half, almost 2 years in Fresno before he got the call-ups. And ever since then, they've continued to move him in the right direction. He's learning how to grow as a player. He's learning to grow as a person. And this past year, especially now playing in, fall ball, it's allowed him to really get a chance to hone in on his craft a little bit more. And now I think adding him to the 40-man gives another element to what he can bring. And I think it shoots him up a little bit more, while a guy like Chivilli, we may not see for another 2 years, unfortunately, just because of his age. So right now, if you really need a guy who can come in and hammer down some innings, it's Juan Mejia. Mejia also, which is really interesting, he started as a middle relief or as a closer, then went to middle relief, back to a closer role. So when you have a guy who can play in multiple facets, it looks really good. And that's something that the Rockies have done. I mean, you've looked at what they've done. They haven't been able to find a consistent guy in different spots. But if you can find a guy that can pitch in the 6th, okay, the next game, he can pitch in the 9th inning. That's invaluable. You can't go wrong with something like that. So right now, Juan Mejia, but either way, they're 2 big ads.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about Juan Mejia. He was somebody I was super stoked that I got the call to Hartford just so I could watch him. Just Spokane. They're obviously not televised. There's something about him. I've said it multiple times, but he's got a little swag about him. He kind of has the Fernando Rodney hat tilt with it, a little bit of an attitude with it too. But it's not like it's the attitude that you want from that shutdown guy. It's I'm out here, I'm going to be better than you just because I'm Juan Mejia. It's like, no, I need to be this mindset, and I'm going to.
He wants that. But that's what he is. A couple of years ago, we were facing San Jose, and Grant McCray was up, and Mejia strikes him out, and McCray kind of looks over, and they give a little banter to one another, and it was fun to watch. It was one of those moments you're like, this is something that could be brewing down the line. And I think what makes it so amazing too is, even though people don't think about this, it doesn't matter. Grant McCray was not added to the Giants 40-man roster. Juan Mejia was. at that moment, Juan Mejia was the better player than Grant McCray. No matter what happens, no matter what Grant McCray wanted to say at that moment 2 years ago, Juan Mejia proved that he was the better player moving forward.
Yeah. And he's gonna be so much fun. Does he when you imagine Juan Mejia makes the call up in purple, is it 25, 26?
I want to say 25. I mean, give the guy another chance. I think what's tough is any guy who goes to Albuquerque, unless you're Hunter Goodman, any guy who goes to Albuquerque, it's a tough step, especially as a pitcher. Just because the altitude changes, the PCL is a different beast in itself. I mean, we would know. We played there, or we were in that league for a long time, so it's a different beast. That's the moment you'll realize real quickly if they're going to be called up quick. I think he starts the year in Hartford, maybe gets a chance in Albuquerque, but I think after that, you'll see him really make big strides. I think Chavi is a 2026 kind of guy. So give a year of Juan Mejia, and then we get to see what AC gets to do up in Coors Field.
I think one of the biggest things with Mejia that you just described that cannot be overlooked is the Swiss Army knife aspect, where you mentioned he can come in the 6th, then the next day come in the 9th and shut things down. That just immediately brought to mind for me Chris Russin, who in the 2018 season was our hero, the guy that got us there. Maybe it was 2017, but one of the postseason years. Every single night when he came in, whether it was the 9th for Bud Black or he pitched the 5th and 6th as the glue guy, he got the Rockies in winning position, and that's something that is so rare that, I mean, every team needs that, and that's why Juan Mejia should be a big ad for the Rockies.
Juan Mejia, had 46 plus appearances, led the team in appearances for the Grizzlies in 2022. So it's something to kind of look at long term if the health wise. I mean, it's always a worry with any pitcher, but with a guy who's able to pitch that many innings, so many years in a row, and so many games in a row, it's always worrisome. But at the same time, it also shows that if he can keep continuing to do this, you have a guy who can throw almost every single game and not worry about that. You like, the arms, seeing what like the St. Louis Cardinals did yesterday, adding a Lance Lynn to the rotation, adding these guys that have pitched all these innings at their age. You need guys like that. And so when you have a guy like Juan Mejia that can come in and throw those innings and throw those games, it's huge down the stretch, because it doesn't matter if you're up 10, doesn't matter if you're down 10. If you can still pitch a guy just to eat up some innings, I don't think anyone's going to say no to something like that.
And especially at the altitude in Denver, the common availability is the best ability.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that rings true, especially in Denver when guys' bodies are scientifically tested even more than in other areas.
And I think that's a huge thing too, is that Mejia is very big on staying healthy, getting his exercise in. It's something that people don't really think about when it comes to it. You really want to make sure that these guys are staying healthy. They are going through the ups and downs when it comes to it, but he's learning how to do a great job when it comes to keeping his body healthy and working out, which is, it's something that a lot of people don't realize is the conditioning aspect, especially in higher altitudes. It's so, so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was able to do a whole research project on the Coors Field effect and what altitude does to the body and just the physics of baseball. One question I do have about Mejia, while I was looking at his figures coming into the show today, I mean, the 13.2 strikeouts per 9 last year across each level that he pitched at, they jumped off the page to me. He also had 4.9 walks per 9.
Yeah.
Did you notice an improvement throughout the year in command, or was it pretty steady?
So in 2022, he was a guy that you looked at in, both years, where in his first year with us, he was like, all right, you might walk 2 guys if you're going to strike out 3, right? So, you're okay with that. The next year, when you saw the control actually get better, there was a point where I'm like, it's time for him to get called up. I mean, he's shown enough on the control aspect to do it. But I think what was huge for him was his ability to locate the off-speed pitch. And now, Baseball America just came out saying that he has the best slider in the Rocky system. And I think when all of a sudden you go from, in quotations, a mediocre middle relief guy that has no look to all of a sudden a 40-man guy that now has the best slider, it shows what he's capable of doing. And I mean, yeah, the walks are going to come. I mean, any relief pitcher has walk issues. Aroldis Chapman is a perfect example. But at some point, if you can strike out guys, it doesn't matter if you walk 3. If you can strike out 3, look, you're out of the inning. It doesn't matter. No one scores. So it's something that I think is a huge thing down the line, that if you have those strikeout numbers, it's good. But again, you're going to get tested at AA, you're going to get tested at AAA, and of course, you're going to get tested in the big league. So the numbers may go down a little bit, but again, he did not give up a lot of home runs as well either. That was something that was big when he was with us. We knew that he wasn't going to give up the long ball. And when he did, he was beat on the fastball. It wasn't beat on an off-speed pitch. So long term, that is something to kind of keep an eye on, are the home run ratios, but also at the same time too, his contact.
Yeah, his stuff is interesting. To your point, AA kind of kicked his butt a little bit, but it's going to. It's the end of the season. You're going to the tougher league, and you got these guys that are literally knocking on the door. With that, he had 9 walks and 15 hits in his 15 innings in Hartford, but he had the strikeouts to match. But it's figuring out that piece. Like, all right, what can I get away with? How can I spot this? How can I actually get these guys to maybe hit weak contact along with the big strikeouts using that big slider that goes with it?
Watching him in Arizona was a lot of fun too. Him, Case Williams, I mean, they were dogs down, getting some innings in. And I think that's when you see these guys after the long year that they have go down and go dominate in Arizona, it really shows that these guys are ready and they're built, and the Rockies see something. Fall ball's there to help guys improve, but it also is there to show who these guys really are. And you got to see it. I mean, you saw it on every single guy that was there. They dominate. Benny Montgomery had a great ACL, and then you think about, Sterling Thompson. These guys are amazing. Drew Romo. I mean, the list can go on and on of what they're capable of doing. So Juan Mejia, perfect ad. Again, we don't want to go away from AC. I said it a year ago, 2 years ago. This guy's for real.
Yeah, he's a good arm to have, and the armbar keeps getting a little bit stronger. There was somebody posting for the Rockies. I would say the armbar is almost one of their top 2, top 3 positions they have. They're pretty deep. They have a lot of young talent. You have Victor Vodnik. You have, Riley Pint. Hopefully he can figure it out. Our boy Dukes, Darnell. There are some
love
names.
Evan Justice too.
Evan Justice, Zach Agnos.
Zach Agnos. Too. The list keeps going, and each spot there's another arm that kind of comes out. Like Juan Mejia had his breakout season this year. Victor Vodnik is going to be incredible. And so there's these arm bars. They're finding these guys that are going to produce and do their thing at the major league level, hoping, but Black and crew actually give them their chance and doing their thing. But that could be a different conversation, a different time. But Cody Huff, I talked about Cody Huff a little bit earlier. I really liked Cody Huff. You got to hang out with him for a year plus down in Fresno. Obviously traded for some arm, some Cal Quantrill pieces for the major league piece, which is all in all a pretty good trade. Like you're trading a high, like a low A catcher for a major league talent arm. With that to the side, like Cody Huff will be a major leaguer. I think he's going to be like his ceiling's like a backup catcher, is what I mentioned earlier. He'll be able to hold his own with the bat, but he'll be great with the pitching staff. Just kind of what did the Guardians get in Cody Huff, and maybe some memories that you have with Cody down in Fresno?
Well, I want to make sure I put the stat in here. Both guys went to Stanford. So a Stanford on Stanford crime trade right there. So want to make sure we put that out there. But, Cody Huff, as you said, major league catcher, backup catcher, is definitely where he's at. You don't get traded for a major leaguer if they don't think you're a major leaguer. So I think that's the first thing foremost. But Cody Huff is a leader. There's something about his leadership and his defensive skills that I think anyone's going to miss. But Cody Huff was a guy where he talked when he needed to, but he was a listener. This was a guy who was learning every single day. I remember talking to Michael Persecki multiple times this year. Had all these records for the Grizzlies this past year, was named an all-star at the end of the California League. And when you talk to Michael Persecki, he goes, I wouldn't be anywhere without Cody Huff. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, what makes Cody Huff so good? Cody Huff just was in my brain the whole time. He knew what I wanted to throw. His game plan. Cody Huff was the only player this past year to read every single game note that I put out. He was the only player who was willing to learn the statistics that were given to the coaches. He was the only player who would go to our pitching coach, go to our manager, and try to learn a game plan on every single player on every single team. This was a guy who was invested more than anyone else when it came to the pre-prep for a game. When you lose a game planning strategist, it's tough. At the same time, too, the Guardians knew what they wanted. We had a Guardian scout who was very popular in Fresno. He came to a lot of games this year, and every single game he was like, Cody Huff's just my favorite. He just every little thing he does. Cody Huff, a ground ball to second, he's breaking over to cover behind first base. He goes, no other guy does that at this level. And you're right. There is no other guy who does what Cody Huff does. He did things that the last time I saw guys do that was a Drew Romo, a Braxton Fulford. And that just shows to the depth what the Rockies have. But at the same time, too, it also shows what the Guardians got. A guy who literally was in single A, and you're picking him up who's doing things that you're going to learn in AAA in the big leagues. So Cody Huff, his ability to do all these things, to be able to work with all these different pitchers, to learn Spanish or to teach Spanish to people. Brian Betancourt learned so much because of what Cody Huff was able to give him. And, it's scary to think that the Rockies had all these in the system. But if you're telling me that we get a quality back end starter for a guy like Cody Huff, what can we get for all these other guys that we have that could be trade pieces later on? And so it stinks losing Cody Huff, but he was fun to talk to. Great interview, great stories. Big Stanford guy, Arizona. His brother actually plays at Arizona, so keep an eye on his brother possibly getting drafted in the future too. And according to Cody and his dad, who's also a scout, that this guy could be a big leaguer as well. So big baseball guy, big IQ, has the baseball background, loves the game, and he loves it, and he just loves what he does. And I think it's tough to lose guys like that. Big memories to him, and Cody Huff, we're glad that you were here with us. Good luck in Cleveland. At the same time, too, you're going to miss out when Colorado raises a World Series trophy.
There we go. Yeah, thank you, Cal, for that. Right? No expectations.
No expectations.
Nothing at all. Could you imagine if we got it this year? That'd be insane.
Oh my god,
that'd be nuts. But like to your point, I think Zach Agnos was talking about how he was transitioning from a two-way player to just being a pitcher. And going through the scouting report, and he really relied on his catchers. I don't know if he necessarily said Huff's name straight out, but he definitely was referring to Huff and the rest of the crew back there. Just talking, working through the game plan, and actually executing and trusting the game plan. I think that's kind of what Cody Huff helped Agnos do. So what he provided, even though it was low A, like he's 22, 21 years old,
22.
Like he's still gonna have a lasting effect on that.
100%.
Like he just helps
100%.
Zach Agnos, save leader in minor league baseball, to understand what it means to be a pitcher. And that's what the Rockies, like you said, Braxton, Romo, like Willie McIver to a point, who's going to be knocking on the door. Like all these pitchers talk about these catchers. Like, I trust him like all the way through. And I could be wrong. But I'm not going to be wrong twice, because my catcher is going to put me in a good position to do that. And I
think
may be a
it's
Jerry
huge.
Weinstein tree thing there too.
Well, and I think, when you have Jerry in your system, and then you go through, Steve Solis in Fresno, former catcher, Robinson Cancel, who's in high A, former catcher.
Yep.
You think about all these guys who are in their system, who are former catchers, who are teaching you how to get better at every step. I don't think there's another minor league organization that has as many coaches in their system that were former catchers. If you can find one, let me know, because there isn't one. Plain and simple. It's unbelievable to say that. And people always say this: catchers make the best managers. Cody Huff was already a manager in my mind when it came to his ability to lead. And to say that for a guy that's just getting his start in minor league baseball, it's huge. But it goes to your point too, the list of amount of good catchers that the Rockies have, and there's going to build even more and more. There's guys that they had to stockpile down in the ACL just because there wasn't room because of how quality there was. Jesus Ordonez, for Pete's sake, the guy can throw out any single guy that tries to steal on him, and he's a 5'7" catcher that had to stay in the ACL and didn't go up until their injuries. Are you kidding me? That's unbelievable.
Yeah, we haven't had a good catcher in years. Like the best catcher, it maybe is Elias Diaz or Igor Torrealba. Like those are the catching prospects in the Rockies history.
Yeah.
And so like you have these guys that are knocking on the door, and Drew Romo, like he's got a little bit of pressure on him, and I think that kind of showed a little bit last year, but he figured it out. But like you are like the future catcher of the Colorado Rockies, and there is this kind of this little layer on your shoulders that we do expect you to be good and be the best one in history. Granted, it's not very hard to do that, but we expect you to be here 5-6 years, producing as much as you possibly can, best that you can, and be in that Colorado Rockies catcher. And so I wonder if the Rockies started kind of looking at that, because this last like 5 years or so, it's been a real turnaround in the catching prospect. Granted, they're all prospects. They haven't performed at the major league level, so that is what it is. But there is that talent, that depth, and that kind of trust that goes that's in there. So it's gonna be exciting to see what Cody Huff does with the Guardians, and see if like the Rockies really did know what they were doing with catchers, along with the rest of the crew. Go Noah.
Yeah, I was just gonna get in right at the end. I mean, as you mentioned with the recent years Rockies catchers, I remember Dom Nunez first game, he launched a home run into the bullpen, and it went like 400 feet in the air and 400 feet long. But I don't even know, where did Dom Nunez end up? I don't know.
We'll get Mike on it. And Dom Nunez, Colorado Rocky, Elk Grove. I shouldn't use that. He was with the Pirates, November 6th, 2023. Dom Nunez elected free agency, and it's the Indianapolis Indians logo there.
Oh, nice.
So he was with the Cubs before that, so he's been bouncing around looking for the next contract. Yeah, I forgot about Dom Nunez. Look at you just dropping bombs there.
I love it.
Yeah, that's good. So then recently the Fresno Grizzlies were bought out, which is usually a bad thing. I think it's right. Diamond Baseball Holdings, they officially they own the Albuquerque Isotopes as well. That was a mid-season or late season purchase by Diamond Holdings. They also hold I think they're like 26.
There's 26 total teams now. Yeah.
Give what you can, but not sure what this means for the minor league landscape. It doesn't look like they're changed. They didn't change your squad. They didn't change the Isotope squad. The whole entire staff is on. Yep. It's just the ownership changed.
Yeah.
What can you share with us about your new employer?
Let me tell you this though. When we got called in for a meeting to be told the changes, it was when you're told, hey, we're all going to have a meeting and you have to be there. Can you imagine how nervous you'd get when it comes to something like that? And it just kind of gave me vibes from meetings that we've had in the past. And I'm going, okay, well, something big's about to be dropped, but like, what is it? Like, are we changing, a logo? Are we adding something? Like, what's going on? And then they told us the news, and everyone kind of just goes, are we out of a job kind of thing? And so we're kind of all sitting there, and, they told us right away that, they're going to keep everybody. There's no changes with it. And so the only big difference with Diamond Baseball Holdings, and we're so thankful for DBH to be able to take a chance on the Grizzlies and see what we've been building here and want to continue to build on the momentum. But really the only difference is whoever's going to sign our paycheck at the end of the day. It's going to be a different name when it comes to that paycheck. We haven't seen any changes yet. Of course, we haven't started a season with them yet, but when you have an organization that has the ability to add so many teams in minor league baseball, it shows that they have something brewing, and to be able to be selected to be their 26th member is pretty amazing, because this is a team Diamond Baseball Holdings wants to add 50 teams. And when you're the 26th of them, that means that you're part of 50 teams that they trust and believe that can be a long-term stability piece for them. And so be able to be put on that list is pretty amazing. For us, I think the long term is that they're going to be able to help us add more to our ballpark, make the whole baseball experience better. But I think the big thing, which is always a tough piece, is you want to be more streamlined. Minor league baseball, this, it's a grind. It's every day from 6 a.m. to 3, 4 a.m., whatever it takes every day. But if you can allow us to take maybe a report at the end of the night that took us 2 hours to do, and you can make it an hour of sleep, an hour more with our loved ones, with the kid as we see, we want to be able to have that. And, I think that's something that was big for our upper management, was saying, hey, if we can streamline our corporate, streamline our ticket sales, streamline the end of day reports, we're going to be a better organization overall, because what we have in Fresno is unbelievable. What Johnny Bravo, what Julian Talai brings to our organization, and that's just pieces that you've seen already. We have one of the best front offices in minor league baseball. We have one of the best groups of fans that allow us to be able to put on all these cool marketing events, allow us to have all these cool logos, the cool gear. Make sure you get this in the team store, want to show it off. Like it's what we have, and to be able to add a group that trusts us to it, it's amazing. But I also want to give a big shout out to our old ownership group, from Michael Baker, Michael Moran, and everyone else over there too. What they did for us over the past couple of years to put us from all the changes that we've had from the pandemic, to go from AAA to single A, from an affiliate change, to keep us stable and to allow us to grow and be a better organization long term, and put us in this spot to be bought by DBH, is unbelievable. So what they've done for us, a big thank you to them. Michael Baker, he's a Colorado guy, so from Colorado. So for anyone who gets a chance to be able to see a guy who took a chance on a team that's not in Colorado but is a part of a Rockies organization now, it's pretty amazing. So what they did, for the letters that they wrote to me, to us in general, to keep us churning along and getting us better and better and putting us here, it's unbelievable. DBH is just another great step to Grizzlies baseball. The stability that we're going to have for years to come, it's awesome. And what you're going to see from Fresno Grizzlies baseball, from Chachansey Park, Fresno Tacos, Low Riders, I mean, it's only going to get better and better. And we'll maybe see some changes in a year from now. So maybe the question a year from now, but for the time being, nothing changes. We're ecstatic to still be here. I'm ecstatic that nothing changes within our organization. And at the same time too, I hope that more teams get added so we can build on what we have.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that kind of whole thing works. Like it's I love the fact that they didn't change anything up. I love the fact that they see something in you and the other 25 teams. But it's going to be interesting to see how they don't make everything the same, how they keep the uniqueness at Albuquerque, Fresno, and the other teams. I think they own Nashville. I think might be one of them.
They love pieces that we all have. We're really good at the non-baseball events as well, from Tequila Fest, which actually won a minor league baseball award, actually. So, which is amazing.
Rockies had a sweep, man. Did you see that?
We swept. Yeah, we're the only organization to sweep, which is awesome. Again what we're all capable of doing. And everyone, all the teams that they have, from Iowa to Memphis, the people that are in my position, for instance, their broadcaster, their media relations guy, they're all baseball nuts. And so to be able to bounce ideas around with people makes my job easier, makes my job better. And I know that it's only going to get better. And we hope that these teams can add off these one-off pieces that we do. At the same time too, we hope that we can maybe add a little bit, or figure out what maybe we can do better that maybe Albuquerque does really well, what Iowa does well, what the Rome Emperors, the Penguins, I don't know what they are anymore, do well. It's amazing to see, and we're excited to be part of DBH.
Yeah, that Rome Emperors brand was pretty sick.
Pretty amazing.
I liked what they did there. It's minor league is so fascinating to me. Like I love it, and I love all the experiences I have at all the ballparks and how everything's different, all the different brands and all that kind of stuff. But like, it's a whole nother part of that behind the scenes. Like, they're not part of the Rockies. They're owned by somebody in town. They're owned by somebody else. They're ran this way, that way. They're an organization along with the baseball team. The GM doesn't make trades. They run the team, the system, the stadium, all of that. It's such a unique business, so to speak.
It is. I mean, it's unlike any other business.
It really is.
people don't really realize what minor league baseball is. And I think it's so funny when people go, "Oh, so you work 6 months. So what do you do for the other 6 months? Like, do you have another job?" Like, no, we're planning for 2024. I mean, literally, once Thanksgiving break ends, I'm going to start writing my list of guys we're going to have on next year's team.
Yeah.
Sorry, but that's what's going to happen. I mean, we got to prepare. We got to get ready for it. I mean, we're already starting our school initiatives for next year. We want to make sure that all the schools going to come check out Grizzlies baseball. It's a nonstop industry, and people don't realize. Yeah, there's the Rule 5 draft, but now you have free agent signings. You have to build stuff before spring training starts. It's not just, oh, you get to relax for a couple months. There's no such thing as relax in baseball. Something's always going on. And that's what's amazing about sports as a whole is, yeah, I mean, maybe baseball slows down a little bit, but guess what? I'm going to go watch a bowl game with college football and watch where these guys went to school, maybe learn a little bit more about maybe XYZ player was a 2-star athlete for all we know. We don't, there's things that people don't realize that happen in minor league baseball. It's a beast unlike any other.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned the sweep of awards that the Rockies got throughout the multiple levels of the organization. I was lucky enough to I went on a East Coast baseball trip, Yankee Stadium, watched the Rockies play. Nationals Park, watched the Rockies play, and then we went to Hartford, and I got to watch the Yard Goats play. That stadium's just as gorgeous as Nationals Park and Yankee Stadium, and it's way more comfortable than Fenway Park because Fenway Park, it's nice, it's just not very comfortable. But I have not been to Fresno, haven't been to Albuquerque, but watching.
You got time. You always got time.
Watching the Yard Goats and the AA affiliate of the Rockies, it's beautiful there, and I really liked it.
It's something that I think it's crazy to think about because I went to Grizzlies games when I was 12, 13 years old when my dad was a coach back in the day when Madison Bumgarner was coming through the Giants system when my dad was coaching there. And that was when I was 12 or 13. And the ballpark was beautiful then. And now to see all the changes that we have to our ballpark and the new field, to the lights, to the video board, it's an experience that I've never been a part of. And to say that we're single A baseball, I mean, we have, in my opinion, I mean, of course I'm biased, but I think we have the best minor league ballpark in all of minor league baseball. And we're a single A team. And I think it's so funny to say that because we'll have these players come in and they go, wait, we're playing here? And then they have to go to, Visalia or Modesto and they go, what? You got how? This doesn't match. And we're like, you're right, it doesn't match, but that's what we're capable of doing. And, adding more and more every year. We have some changes that are coming up that we're adding to help the players for the upcoming season. And let me tell you, these players are going to be so spoiled. I'm kind of concerned that the Rockies organization may become the most spoiled organization because of what they're going to get in Fresno, what they're going to get in Spokane, what they get in Hartford, what they're going to get in Albuquerque before they get to Coors Field. No, I think that's what's so sad about it.
Yeah. And Spokane's they're doing a whole bunch of renovations. That ballpark is going to be sick in about 27, I think 26, 27.
Which is awesome. I mean, it's
going to be fun.
It's something that that Major League Baseball wants all these minor league teams to do is to get to that point where every ballpark's beautiful. But at the same time, too, when you already have the beautiful part of it and you only can add and get better, it's amazing. It's exactly what it is. So it's something that we're fortunate to have, and DBH long term is going to help us become bigger and better. And they're baseball guys too. Peter Freund, who's kind of he's the guy we've already kind of talked over the phone, kind of like this. He's talked to our front office, and it's pretty amazing to see what he's already said to us and what the long term is going to hold for us. And we just hope it's going to get bigger and better. And at the same time, too, we're going to still rock out what we do. And it's funny because it doesn't change. I was really hoping that maybe they would make it mandatory for JB to grow a beard or something, but it is what it is.
I don't know if we need that in our lives.
He's beautiful with the beard, though. Come on now.
Yeah, maybe there's a friendly friendly wager we put on in the preseason pod there. But got to give a huge shout out. Like you've been talking yourself up, but the fact that you guys went from AAA to single A with that revamp of the minor league systems and been able to do what you've been doing, it's been fantastic. I think you guys have at least been at the top of attendance, at least per game. I think your July 4th game is always like sold out, and it's always one of the top 5 in the whole nation with games and minor league attendance. And I think your season numbers are pretty up there too. Like you and Albuquerque are always on those lists and whatnot. So huge shout out to you all for like holding on that.
Appreciate that.
Like that's a big switch from AAA to high A or low A, and being able to hold that there.
We think California, man.
Right. It's a lifestyle. All right, maybe finish with this. What are the Cardinals doing, and how happy are we that they're kind of blowing it? Like, I'm so glad. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the weird one here. I'm so glad the Rockies did not sign Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn to be the inning eaters of the rotation, and the Cardinals, who I'm always biased. I don't want them to succeed. There's multiple reasons why. I just don't want them to be a good franchise. And they're signing these guys. So, like, Noah, what is your very first take when you see the Cardinals signing these guys? Like,
I think it's surprising because it's like they're buying coming off of a season where I think they only won. I don't even know if they got 70 wins. I know they weren't that much better than the Rockies, and we won 59. So I think it's interesting because typically the buyers are the ones in the mid 80s that are looking to make the jump. But I guess, I mean, the Diamondbacks didn't. I won 86 games, and they didn't. You know, they went to the World Series. So maybe the Cardinals were inspired by that. But I'm with you in the fact that I root for the Cardinals' downfall until Nolan opts to go to the Dodgers, and then I wish he was on the Cardinals. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm all for their downfall. I think it's very odd that they're signing older guys in their 30s to come in and expect them to be healthy the whole time, eat innings. And I mean, I know Lance Lynn in particular, just because he makes headlines more often, poor guy, mostly not for the right reasons. But right. I mean, the media does kind of craps on him pretty badly, but I don't know. The Cardinals are buying in a situation where they need a lot of help, more than just Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson.
It's just sad. I don't get it. Are they trying to? I mean, there was one thing I read that was kind of interesting where they got 2 guys that kind of did what their full rotation was able to do last year. But is Lance Lynn the answer for them? No. Is Kyle Gibson the answer for them? No. But you have to add pieces. What I think is so funny, and this is something that we have not seen in the Rockies side of things, is when the Rockies have brought their prospects up, the Hunter Goodmans, the Ezekiel Tovars, the Nolan Jones, you don't see them flatline. Every prospect the Cardinals brought up flatlined, which is a concern thing for them in the future. And my thought process is they go, none of our younger guys are really ready to make the jump, which means our development is not correct at the lower levels, at the upper levels in the minor league system. If we get these older guys who have already shown what they're capable of doing, and they can at least match or do a little bit better what they did last year, we know we can be consistent. And then when these younger guys are ready to come back or take over when they can, we can just get rid of these older guys that we got for cheap and have these younger guys ready to go. It's tough for me to say something like that, but it's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that they truly believe that they need an older system because their younger system is just not here yet. And I know that Gibson and Lance Lynn were possible names that were floated around to joining the Rockies, but seeing how negative social media got towards these guys, I'm concerned that if the Rockies were to sign these guys or made a trade for them at any point in the past year, that social media would have not gone after the Rockies. And I think that also shows that the Cardinals, they really don't know what they want to do. You add all these pieces of Nolan Arenado into Paul Goldschmidt, and you can't do anything. You trade away pieces. You literally DFA pieces that are hitting bombs in the series. Like, what are we doing? Like, the Cardinals had to look themselves in the mirror and go, what are we? And I love it. I love every
It's
bit of
so
it.
nice.
And I have a coworker, Bailey. I'm sorry, bud, but your Cardinals stink, and it's hilarious.
I think it's I'm gonna hop in here. The Rockies last year were young and bad, but that's because they're gonna get better. The Cardinals, they're old and bad, and they just got older. It doesn't make sense.
No,
And-
I don't get it.
What did they do with Jordan Walker? I think they broke that man, like sitting him down the way they did, and like not giving him that leash. And then they called him back up, and he was still a hot mess. Like, I remember watching one random Cardinals game, and he had that terrible defensive play on the right field where he, like, it was just like, what are you doing? It's like, but like he was like the top dog, like he was the number one prospect, or not top 3 prospect in the system, was that next guy. I mean, I drafted him in my fantasy leagues. Like, yeah, this is gonna be great. He's the Cardinal. Like, they got to figure it out, and they're a dumpster fire. And I kind of brought them up because the Rockies and ownership, there's all this negative stuff towards it. It could be worse. Like, we're not going to get into Oakland, but go look at the White Sox. Go look at the Cardinals. Like, there's some stuff happening there. Like, there's other franchises that, like, what is this ownership group doing? How is this managing? Like, the Brewers might be on that. We talked about that earlier with Noah, and there's something going on there. Like, how do you not keep Craig Counsell, or how does he sneak away to the Cubs, like with like hush hush, and like obviously, and I was telling Noah, like, there's nothing on the horizons for the Brewers. Like, they're going to be a hot mess next year too.
You know what?
Like,
I think the Padres are too. I think the Padres are heading that way.
That was the big one I was thinking of too. Like, and rest in peace, the owner. But like, you're spending all that money. You need a loan. You're not getting it. But that also might be, we talked about the revenue sharing with the regional cable markets. Like, they lost money with that, which might be why they got the loan. But it's like, you're spending all this money, you're not winning. Like, the Dodgers, they have some things to worry about. Like, how do you win 110 games but don't have a World Series minus the Mickey Mouse one in 2020 to show for it? And you're connected to Ohtani. You might get Mike Trout too, and you're having like 1 through 5 is like all-star Hall of Famer future guys. Yet, what are you doing with it? Like, they won just as many playoff games as the Rockies.
I'm confused too with the Padres getting Mike Schultz as their manager. He was in St. Louis when everything started going crazy. Why do you think that this is the guy? I'm sorry, but like, you know who was on that list? Mateo Gil, a former Fresno Grizzlies dad, Benji, was literally one of the guys that was noted as being a future manager. And you're telling me that Mike Schultz the better answer? No. When he was in St. Louis, they canned him as quick as they could. Why would San Diego think that that's the answer over there? And it's concerning because look where he started, look where he is. The two organizations have a lot of issues. Not saying there's a common piece.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. And the best thing I can compare it to in like a different sport is the NFL teams that continue to bring in old veterans that are washed up to try to be their quarterback, their franchise guy. The Colts, my local team, they brought in Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers. It never worked. So now they have Anthony Richardson. The Broncos for 7 years tried and failed at quarterback. And I mean, it got so bad. We saw Teddy Bridgewater in there, Joe Flacco, Mr. Not Elite. I mean, putting Band-Aids on bullet holes does not work. And that's what the Padres are doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because these organizations that are signing and have this money to sign guys who, you know, no offense to the Rays, or, I mean, you can even put the Rockies on the list, don't have the money that these organizations have to be able to sign these players. And you're telling me that you're going to go get a Juan Soto for the Cardinals. You have Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, and you can't even make it interesting and competitive in your own division. And you're losing out to these teams. Like, no offense, but how the heck were the Chicago Cubs as good as they were last year? That was a team that got written off from the very beginning. Milwaukee ran away with it, but that's because they didn't have any challenges. You know, it's crazy to think that a storied franchise like the St. Louis Cardinals, that for one point was the scariest team in baseball, to now is just kind of a laughing stock. It's sad, but at the same time too, it shows that if you can trust your systems and trust your young players and keep them up there, Jordan Walker, that you'll see the success with what Texas, what Arizona was capable of doing. Trust that you have the pieces there. You don't draft a guy like Jordan Walker and then have him back in Memphis. That's not the plan. It's not.
You got to
And
lean into it
speaking
and go with it.
and speaking of Memphis, they have a huge issue with their field going on. Apparently, the city of Memphis doesn't want to help make that stadium better. I don't know if you've ever been down there. It's in downtown Memphis. There's not a lot of room to grow that stadium, and they don't meet a lot of requirements that are needed. And they're part of their DBH family, and we hope that they can get it figured out. But when your minor league systems are starting to fail now, your big league team all of a sudden is failing. There's a lot of issues going on, and it's concerning, which is why being a Rockies person is not a bad thing.
Like, there is something to say about vibes, and
Yes.
and that's probably not the most professional term to use, but I mean, we saw it in Rocktober. We can talk about that another time too.
Yeah.
But there's about the winning culture and changing the culture, and that's what, that's mummies, and that's what the Rockies are doing right now. Like, they're changing this culture, and you see it with these guys that are coming up, and it's kind of like why I want all these guys to come up at the same time. Like, give me Hunter Stovall, Coco Montez, down the list, Shunk, all these guys together at the same time just to see what they can do. Like, when they were together in Albuquerque to start the second half, they were winning. There was that culture because they did it together in Spokane. They did it in Hartford. Yep, that's mummies. And so, like, there's this culture, this vibe, and it kind of trickled into the Rockies dugout at the end of the season when Nolan Jones started doing his thing. And like, you see Alaris Montero doing the struggles that he had, but like him and Nolan Jones are like best friends, even though they don't speak the same language, and like they lean in on each other. There is something to go with that, and it's the Rockies have it, and that kind of, I think that's where my hope is up now, as opposed to in 2021. Even at the beginning of last year, I'm starting to see that there. The vibes are there, and hopefully, like, it can start trickling to the pitching staff, the rotation, the arm bar, and like there's this consistency in these guys, these glue guys that can hold it together, but keep the vibes up and start changing that culture all the way through.
And I think that's why Bud Black always has a job as well, too. Because if you look at all these guys that are getting jobs, no offense to like a Ron Washington, but there's not a lot of managers that can do what Bud Black does. And Bud Black, despite the records and everything, I think they understand that he is a good culture piece to have and lead these guys. And that's why he continues to get a new contract. He gets the renewed part of it because he is a good man. He knows what he's doing. He is a baseball guy. He is a guy who's been there forever. And when you have all these young pieces, he's able to keep this group together. You don't see that in a lot of other places. That's why you see a turnover. That's why you lose guys like a Craig Counsell, because there's just people who don't believe in what he can bring to the table. I mean, it's great. And I hope Bud Black is here for a long time, because when the Rockies become successful, I don't want him to get stuck in the mix of when they were bad. He needs and deserves to get the love and respect that he's been able to bring for the Rockies at the leadership level.
I think differently about Bud Black, but like, I agree that he's a good man. He has the good vibes. He has the clubhouse together. I get that he'll go to bat for his guys. Like, that's not what it. But I can't trust you so much when you're hitting Harold out there for 82 games when you got other things. But that's beside the point. But again, to the vibe piece, I think that is something that is there. And he does deserve some recognition keeping it together. There's some things that I wish he would do a little bit differently, but I'm an armchair analysis when I say that, as opposed to somebody that's all up in there. I don't know. It's just Rockies fan. Like, I don't know. Do either one of you guys go to Reddit?
Here and there.
The Rockies Reddit it's terrible. And there's this culture, like, every post, it could be good, it could be bad. It's sell the team. It's just like, shut the fuck up. Sorry for cussing. But like, there's a certain point, like that narrative, it's just terrible. And I think it's just like, you get stuck in this. And Dick Monfort has ruined baseball for a lot of people, and I understand that. I'm not taking that away from people, but baseball is so readily available. You can go find a new team pretty easily. You can find somebody to latch on. You can find the podcast to help you get there. You can find the blogs that can help you enjoy that new team. Like I did that with a MLS soccer. Like I'm a huge Crew guy because I just dove in and I was able to find that. And like it's easier for me to follow a new team other than the Detroit Tigers, who is in my network, but I don't have cable. So it's like, get over it. If you really are that upset, like stop and go find a new team. Go root for the Cardinals and be upset with them. Or go jump on the bandwagon with the Red Sox, who are probably going to spend a ton of money this offseason. Just dive into it.
Yeah.
And like, there's this culture around the fan base too, that it's kind of going away. It's starting to come back because the young guys are playing and they're performing. There's, I think the old heads, me included in that, are kind of sick of the sell the team narrative. Like, yeah, okay, what's next? Like, literally go do something else then.
And I think all this, I mean, I don't know. I was 3 years old for the 2007 season, so obviously I don't remember any of that. But like, whenever I would talk to my friends about our teams, and one of them is a Red Sox fan, like I just described to them, like the day we win a World Series, like the reaction will be unmatched, because like
it's gonna be off the chain.
All these years, the videos of the old Rangers fans like crying, like that's gonna be, I don't know, it's gonna be me if it, you know.
It's crazy because I mean, I'm from Colorado. I grew up actually hating the Rockies because my dad was working the Giants. My dad was working for teams that were against the Rockies.
Right.
I had all these friends that were Rockies fans, and now I'm on the dark side. But talking to my friends who were literally diehard Rockies fans, who were losing hope in their team because losing season after losing season, I'm like, guys, I work in their minor league system. I am seeing firsthand what they're doing. And if you can't get excited and don't want to be on this bandwagon still, get off, because there's people that will love to get on to see what will happen when Adiel Amador, Yanquiel Fernandez, and the rest of the crew goes and wins a World Series. And guess what? When they win a World Series, I don't want you hopping back on the bandwagon. There's no room for you. You know, it's so much fun. I've never, you know, the Grizzlies have been with the Astros, Giants, and Nationals. I have never seen with any of these teams that we've had, and this is when the Astros had Correa and Bregman to win a World Series. I don't feel the same way that I do with this Rockies system. There is something that is unbelievably cooking, and just seeing bits and pieces of Nolan Jones, of Ezekiel Tovar, and that's just the starts. There's guys that are literally waiting in the wings for their opportunity to get up there, that are just being built into it. Juan Mejia was a nobody. No one had him on their radar. This guy could be in the big leagues in the next year. And you're telling me that, okay, he started in Fresno. He spent a year and a half in Fresno, and now he's on the verge of being in the big leagues on the 40-man roster, and he was a nobody. That's building something that people have no idea what's about to happen. You find enough healthy starting pitchers, that offense at Coors Field, Yanquiel Fernandez is going to hit 40 home runs at some point. Good luck trying to beat the Rockies in a couple of years. And if you don't want to be on it, see you later. Go join St. Louis.
The pieces are there for it to happen. And like you said, the Fresno Grizzlies have been part of all those franchises, and they have won World Series while being part of those franchises.
Yes.
So I think the Fresno Grizzlies window to win a World Series for the Rockies is like, I think we have about 5 more years to figure it out. By 2030, we need a World Series. So
100%.
It starts somewhere. It starts at Fresno. It all starts with the vibes in the clubhouse. And I think those vibes also go to the fan base. Like, I don't know. Again, Dick gets a lot of grief for good measure, but every single player I talk to, they appreciate what the Rockies did. Like the Rockies were one of the very first organizations to actually pay for housing without being forced to, without being asked to. Like they did that, and they put them in good places, not just cheap places. And so they are taking care of those guys. And again, that culture, changing it, you don't see it because you have a 100-loss season, but it's there. And again, you can dive into any team you want because MILB games are officially on MLB Network, like MLB TV. If you have a subscription, you can watch any minor league team for free.
Yeah.
What you have to do is change your favorite team to it. So either dive in and find the hope, or stop talking, or go find a new team. And that's probably my soapbox rant being done. Like, I have a few friends who are Rockies fans.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I don't know how you do it. I was like, well, I found a way. Like, this is my venture, these prospects, and getting to know these guys. And of course I'm biased because you're talking to these guys and their livelihoods on the line, and they're good dudes, and there's that. But there's hope. Like, what is fandom without hope? Like, I don't understand the whole negative Nancy piece, like, going with it. Like, every year the Lions fans are hoping and they're gonna have fun with it, and then they're gonna be miserable when they're 6-5 or 5-6 or whatever, and then they're focusing on the draft. And that's just been the cycle, and that's kind of why it's been fun being up in Lions country, because that's been the vibe. Like,
I love Dan Campbell. I will run through a wall for Dan Campbell.
I mean, everybody will. Right?
That man's the greatest. Oh, I would love to play for Dan Campbell.
We need some Dan Campbell on the Fresno Grizzlies big board in between innings or something.
Dan Campbell. I mean, hey, Dan Campbell, if you're ever listening, man, you're a real OG. Come join Blake Street Banter. Talk about what it means to run an organization. Talk about when it comes to that stuff. No, I mean, seriously though, if people who want to leave the Rockies, or people who want to join the Rockies bandwagon, come check out the Fresno Grizzlies. Come listen to me call a game. Come watch what we're capable of doing. Come to Chansey Park, watch a game in person, see what it's all about. The vibes are immaculate in Fresno. We want you guys to see the love that we have for this organization, for our team, and we want to make sure that if you want to come join us, we're here to help and welcome you guys. If you want to leave. If you want to stay, come on, we'll keep you here for some reason. Come join us. We want more Fresno Grizzlies love. Make sure that's your favorite team. Follow us, FresnoGrizzlies.com. It's not hard to do that. We post really great stuff. Our marketing team is immaculate, so we can't go wrong with it.
It's pretty solid. And I think you guys are having a sale right now on merch.
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to be used for a graphic, so watch for the graphic of the girlfriend and I.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Steven, thank you for hanging out. I was going to ask you to plug, but you just did your plugging, so we'll end with that. Noah, where can people find you?
Just on Instagram and Twitter, both at Noah Spyrick, right on the screen.
And look for some blogs coming from Noah as times slow down and all that kind of stuff. He's a fantastic writer. I'm hoping that continues to do things for us there. And just follow Blake Street Banter. We are doing a lot of off-season blogs. We're doing our best to keep up with the podcast, working on some banner sessions to happen. So getting to know some of these players, have a few things lined up for the off-season. So keep checking us out, BlakeStreetBanter.com. And as always, go Rocks, minor league affiliates. Woo! I need the Indian. Thank you for watching and listening. Please check out our link tree for more content.